Welcome to the 12th session. In this series, we are using Indian knowledge systems for creating a global well-being curriculum to meet the new goal of education. Indian knowledge systems, which are really an international knowledge system, they have been so from time immemorial. Their ways of knowing are Pratyaksha, Anuman, Upaman and Shabd Praman. And we are going to compare in this session the IKS and the current knowledge systems, their ideas of character and personality development. We will also analyze if the current well-being theories that we have with us, which are there in our toolbox, we are going to analyze if they will work, they are likely to work. In this manner, we will build a case for using IKS and its unique approach. To achieve well-being, the new goal of education, OECD's Learning Compass seeks to develop attitudes, values for transformative competencies. How does IKS do this? Well, we know that both IKS and the current knowledge systems seek the goal of inner happiness and well-being, but their way of achieving the goal is different. While the current knowledge system uses sense perception as its first way of knowing, well, the problem with using that as the first way of knowing is that it can only explore the outer world. The nature of the outer world is to keep changing. Hence, the idea and the experience of well-being and happiness in current knowledge system keeps fluctuating because our way of knowing is such that it is likely to change. Therefore, the end result also changes. If you compare it with IKS, then IKS develops character and personality to awaken the voice of conscience which is within us, and therefore it finds inner happiness by exploring the inner world of inner conscious and consciousness. This is its path for creating well-being for society, and this path is more stable. The OECD's Learning Compass seeks two more core competencies. These are knowledge and skills. Now, current knowledge system is equipped for these fully. They know very well, the current knowledge system is very well equipped to create knowledge and to create skills. Just see these videos. Skills we can see have been imparted by humans to animals also. Is the challenge developing skills and giving knowledge that lead to well-being? If so, why has this approach not worked in the last 150 years for humans? What can develop attitude and values that lead to transformative competencies? We will take a 5-minute break here in this session and wait for you to answer these questions. Why is development of character and personality using theories of current knowledge system leading to social pain? The current knowledge system claims that they too use Upaman and Anuman, which is used by IKS. So the ways of knowing according to them are similar even if they are not writing them formally. So what would be IKS's answer to this question? IKS would say that if human conscience is not activated within through practices, it will always result in social pain. The ideas of IKS were never designed for one country. Their vision was universal and so was their application, and this was shown as far back as Nalanda and Takshila. The application may have been wrongly used. Was IKS's awareness applied as a study of limits while developing the theory of reductionism? And when this study of limits did not give evidence of reductionism in the physical world, did it lead to sense perception and scientific materialism? IKS is thousands of years old. Its ideas had spread globally. Scientists may have known about Advaita. They may not have been able to experience it. Did they try to find evidence of its subtle awareness in the gross world? Such an attempt is bound to fail. Did they then reject IKS as unscientific or esoteric? Now interest in IKS is reviving again. When a mixture of theories are attempted, either by CKS or IKS, does it lead to a mixed up view? Will mixed up ideals or ideas lead to confusion, not inner peace? The IKS way of seeing things gives a stable viewpoint, and we see multiplicity with a stable viewpoint, not a confused viewpoint or a viewpoint that keeps changing. The World Economic Forum seeks character qualities from education. It was the goal of IKS always. The 6th session and the 10th session showed how it is built. What is IKS? Its tradition developed character through transformation of the human heart using education. Its graduates were called Bharati. The word Bharat implies Bhav, Rag and Tal. Hence the correct name for IKS is Bharatiya Knowledge System. Its goal of education is to develop character by transforming the bhav or the emotion, feelings of the human heart. Such transformation is beyond our sense perception. Anyone transformed will create music using words. Their actions will be within a discipline that beat of music or tal imposes. Thus, the IKS was not limited to a geographical boundary. It is a universal system of education, and all who apply it living anywhere in the world are Bharatiyas. Examples of application of its ideas exist all over the world, not just in India, and amongst known personalities too. We will use one example here. IKS's education does not tolerate the idea of one human being becoming a slave of another human being. We therefore demonstrate the application of Bharatiya knowledge system or IKS, Indian, what is now called Indian knowledge system, in the context of removing slavery in the USA. The person who had the character and personality to fight for its removal later became the President of the United States of America. So we start this session with a story, not a theory. It is about a USA President's life history. It is used to demonstrate the concepts of IKS or Bharatiya Knowledge System, which is a global curriculum. This is the Abraham Lincoln Emancipation Monument. We will narrate the story of the life of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States of America. He led the nation through the Civil War. He emancipated slaves. He fought division of the nation, leading the war himself at one time. He was able to preserve the Union. Using the force of his personality and character, he not only abolished slavery but made the government and economy strong. The history of United States of America can never be written without using his name. What was so great about his personality? How did his personality develop? Let us see concepts of personality development of current knowledge system. We will then see the life of Abraham Lincoln that follows the concepts of Indian knowledge system, or rightly Bharatiya knowledge system. During his election campaign, he was called Honest Abe. How did this honesty get created? How did he develop self-confidence to take on Herculean tasks that split the nation into two? The currency of USA uses his photograph to create confidence in their honesty. Will reading theory create such self-confidence? Was it because of education or was it because of practice? What creates self-confidence? You can self-examine this question later. If thoughts come in the silent sitting module at the end of this class, you may examine this thought. Then we will ask ourselves if his life teaches us, or will we learn from CKS's theories. OECD's position paper on achieving competencies that help fructify the goal of education seeks knowledge, skills, attitudes as well as values. Have academic ideas of well-being of current knowledge system helped form attitudes and values? If so, have these ideas worked? The OECD Learning Compass wishes to reach parents, teachers, peers and the community. Its 2008 report concluded that the community has witnessed social pain in the last 150 years. This is despite the well-being idea as a goal of education arising earlier to 2008. CKS academicians started formal work on well-being prior to 2008 with the support of 500 campus grants. What is the nature of its academic output? Have such CKS efforts created well-being? If they could not create well-being in over 1.5 decades, are they likely to create it now? We saw that there are 2 books of essays and 5 series monographs which were released from 2012 till 2016 by Professor Harvard and his team. These visuals have been shared with you. Even Gallup study in 150 countries identified career, social, financial, physical and community dimensions of well-being. Similarly, many other academic papers were written. What do these books say? We are sharing some samples here. Transforming Undergraduate Education explored how an understanding and practice of engaged learning connected to civic engagement and how the connection was essential to higher education's mission, unquote. So, we are going to show that wisdom's education makes this possible and evidence of this will be given. Then a second quotation, the civic series developed that thesis with multiple essays focused on more specific consideration of analysis, implications and practices, unquote. This is a quotation from Professor Harvard. And we will show that wisdom makes civic engagement a natural choice right from the student years. Then the third quotation we are sharing here is that institutional changes that result from an attention to well-being are essential for fulfilling the purpose of higher education. All these 3 quotations are from the acknowledgement page of well-being and higher education, bringing theory to practice. Wisdom will give evidence of over 4 decades of sustainable well-being. So, as long as we allow short-term desires to win, it will be difficult to effect long-term behavioral change. This is what Gallup says. And this is exactly what is the basis of practices in Indian knowledge system or Bharatiya knowledge system. So, if we see the timeline of fulfilling the new goal of education, we can ask the question, will these theories of current knowledge system achieve the goal without the practices of Indian knowledge system? The practices of Indian knowledge system create character, attitudes and values. We are seeing the timeline here that for 150 years after the industrial digital revolution, the concepts led to social pain, and 2008 we created a well-being curriculum. While by 2019 the work on bringing theory to practice for well-being curriculum was complete after 500 campus grants over 15 years. Now, the current knowledge system has many approaches to personality development, while Indian knowledge system uses concepts and focuses on practices meeting OECD's goals of transforming attitudes, values, competencies. The research and theories of personality development in the last 150 years are really very useful, but they could not prevent social pain. Would knowledge of applying ideas, the same ideas, using practices of Indian knowledge system have helped? We are showing a sample of a book which shows the current approaches of CKS in personality development. They include psychoanalytic approach, neo-psychoanalytic approach, social learning approach, lifespan approach, genetic approach, humanistic approach, cognitive approach, behavioral approach, social learning approach and limited domain approach, etc., etc. So, we have seen that current knowledge system theory gives knowledge and skills but could not transform society. Why? What happens when human thought is misguided? What are its implications for society, education and living life? Society can be judged through social conduct, economic activity, the nature of spiritual pursuit and political behavior. Many complain of disorder, crime, falsehood in society. Business too gets accused of unethical or immoral behavior. Globally, is spiritual pursuit leading humans to exhibit control over the mind? Are repeated problems in society, including political behavior, exhibiting a purity in human thought? Many wonder about these questions. A lack of knowledge about the nature of the human mind, IKS says, is the cause of problems. Current knowledge system investigates nature. IKS does the same, but also accompanies it by a similar investigation into the nature of the human mind. Living life within the body and also in society requires use of the mind. A mastery of the mind can solve problems, IKS says. All humans have the same body functions. It is the use of the mind that is the cause of all differences. The way that transforms one individual can transform society. This is IKS's firm belief. Its practices led to self-confidence and personality development. If students graduate with these qualities, it transforms society. Let's go back and see Lincoln's life. Did he use theories? Let us see how IKS or Bharatiya knowledge systems practices overarch adverse circumstances. He won the trust of millions and was known as Honest Abe. What made his character shine? How did character build his personality? His family was very poor. They could not afford decent dress or books for him. He used street lights to study. His mother mended old, worn-out clothes to earn money. His class students were rich and humiliated him deeply, making fun of him. He used to come home crying. So what IKS ideas did he use? His mother asked him not to get affected by either praise or blame. Well, this is the very first lesson of the Bhagavad Gita, to be unaffected by praise or blame. His father could not afford his education. His mother guided him to develop self-confidence as the only property, while others are showing off their houses. These words made a lasting impression on his tender heart. Constant practice makes a man perfect. This is the old saying. So he acquired self-confidence and self-respect by training his mind in this universal concept that is the first lesson of IKS. Praise or blame are experienced by sense perception. The truth may be beyond them. We speak the truth so that we get into the habit of investigating the truth of every situation. This investigation gives us a habit of seeking truth. The truth beyond sense perception helps build character. Lincoln's habit was of investigating truth from an early age. When everyone mocked Lincoln, he only looked at his inner truth. He searched for truth and righteous conduct within himself. It took a long time, but his true worth became obvious to all one day. Truth and righteous conduct naturally create these qualities within us, the qualities of earnestness, compassion, peace, prosperity, contentment, progress, modesty, honor, liberation. Lincoln's character and personality developed to stand up to obstacles. It led him to change a nation's attitude, rising above the fear that the nation will be split. It gave him the power to lead the nation, unaffected by the sorrow of losing his most loved son and other such personal setbacks. Some perceive the approach of awareness of goodness, empathy, and large-heartedness as a soft one, meant for losers. IKS states, Nayamatma balhinena labhyaha. That is, the human essence is an experience of one's truth as the soul, and this experience cannot be won by the weak. The Sankhya Philosophy states that the universe is filled with opposites. Their comprehension and awareness is beyond our senses. A focus on being truly honest like Abe will lead to righteous conduct. This will lead to the removal of the following traits: ego, infatuation, greed, deceit, jealousy, anger, fear, death. An ability to experience beyond senses leads to their removal. A divorce of education from concepts that help us in daily life lead to a fractured idea of oneself and society. It leads to a divorce between education and life. Lincoln's life did not suffer from such a divorce as he grew up with the practices of Bharatiya knowledge system. And this practice was centered around being unaffected by either praise or blame. When the goal of education integrates with the goal of living life, the highest happiness for humans can lead to the highest happiness for society. A mind that is fractured by the 6 inner enemies identified by IKS fractures the individual mind from within and his social consciousness. Lincoln learned to control these enemies from childhood. His idea of reality thus went beyond sense perception, which is the current knowledge system's first way of knowing. He was unaffected by praise or blame. He did the right thing because it needed to be done, not for selfish gain. Greed is another one of the 6 inner enemies. It fractures society. How? 2000 showed this. Some got millions of dollars in bonus as society suffered. Only if character develops through education based on practices of Bharatiya knowledge system can the current divorce between application of education and well-being be cured. To enable this, humans must be in tune with nature. This will help them to explore and discover their own true inner nature. Both nature and human nature, IKS says, are naturally in a state of balance. IKS unravels this balance through its practices that help us conquer the 6 inner enemies and revert back to our natural balance. Nature's balance nourishes us with food. Similarly, practices of IKS are food that nourish our mind and reveal the natural balance of our inner nature. So, IKS reveals reality of ourselves and creation. This balances society and individuals. Even youth have mental health problems today. This is very sad, but true. Social inequality problems also are disturbing society, the balance of society. Is it because we don't educate all in the reality as seen by the Indian knowledge system? Well, look at nature, look at the sun, it shines equally on all. Water in the lake is meant equally for all. We divide it in territories. Nature does not do it. IKS calls it dharma, or nature's silent law that creates balance. National laws are based on ethics, but do human emotions follow them? Lincoln's ideas of reality went beyond sense perception in the early years. IKS practices restore balance within individuals and society. We often complain, just when I was getting happy, everything changed. IKS seeks inspiration from the continuous process of change in nature. It analyzes that processes in nature are always changing, and yet they are in a dynamic balance. And this dynamic balance is of 3 things: creation, preservation, and creative destruction. How to seek balance in this ever-changing scenario? With these ideas, it sought to explore the secrets of nature and discover the secret within all humans. Can observing or learning from nature help humans lead a life that is in dynamic balance? Can we learn from secrets of nature and apply them within ourselves? Seasons change, as do reasons. Can our experience of inner balance go beyond the changing seasons of circumstances? Circumstances will always keep changing. How to be comfortable in this change? That is the challenge that IKS prepares all students for. Humans observed cycles in nature. In this way, they found when and how to grow crops. Earning a harvest enabled all to feed themselves and all members of society. Having reliable sources of food, for example, led to balance within humans and within society. This balance satisfied the first order of human needs in Maslow's need hierarchy. Could higher order needs too be satisfied by seeing how to get a well-being harvest? Food for thought was given by IKS's practices that did not change with season or reason. These practices tilled the soil in the human heart, sowed seeds of good behavior, character, personality, which led to balance within individuals and in society. IKS in this manner gave the individual and society a harvest of well-being. Have we lost this vision to learn from nature's truth that is demonstrated by the sun and the seasons? Because they are meant for all. Similarly, is the fruit of mental health everyone's right? Even if some have lost this vision, can an alternate knowledge system restore it? It is a vision that enables all to visualize actions that lead to mental health, social equality, and well-being. Is such a vision that restores this health naturally? Is such a vision needed? Many may claim to offer it, but how to judge? We must lay down a criteria and condition. The evidence of achieving the truth of human potential and creating well-being should be easily verifiable by one and all. Such a knowledge system must fulfill these conditions. 1. Its truth, like nature's truth, should be based on evidence that is easily verifiable by one and all. Secondly, its evidence should reveal that it investigated and comprehended the truth of human nature and the truth of local needs wherever its education was imparted. It should have applied its ideas to adapt and satisfy local needs. Finally, also its local knowledge and ability to solve local needs should have global application, and they should be capable of replication all over the world. IKS is this alternative knowledge system that we are discussing here. While current knowledge system uses IB curriculum developed after World War I, the IKS curriculum, its concepts use 5,000 years of experience, not just 150 or 250 years of theory. Now, both current knowledge system and IKS investigate truth. CKS uses 8 ways of knowing to do it. IKS first asks, which truth do you want to know? They are not one, but they are 3 truths. One truth, which is seen by sense perception. The second truth is inferred by the mind through comparison or otherwise. And 3, the third is that truth which never changes. IKS investigations always require reflection. The World Economic Forum now wants education to impart reflection before action. The basis of seeking the truth today is, I must see with my eyes, touch with my hands, and taste with my tongue to believe. How can I believe in something I cannot see, cannot touch, or cannot taste? IKS has a totally different approach. Let's take the example of CKS and its way of knowing. You see a man who is 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighs 63 kgs and is wearing spectacles. This is direct perception. Is sense perception true? Definitely. But sense perception's truths are only for the external vision. The person may also have qualities like sacrifice, kindness, and determination that cannot be seen, touched, or even measured. Even if you cut the person into pieces, these qualities will not be visible. Can we deny that they exist? The body functions of Abraham Lincoln and millions of humans are the same. Yet, why could all not do what he did? Why could all not achieve what he was able to achieve? The current knowledge system's ways of knowing are guided by its first way of knowing, that is sense perception. IKS uses three others, including sense perception. It also uses inference, comparison, and above all, the revealed truth and the voice of conscience. IKS requires discipline of the senses when using sense perception as a way of knowing. This is not a requirement in CKS of disciplining the senses. So, do IKS and CKS differ? OECD has evidenced social pain in the last 150 years. CKS ways of knowing of reason, emotion, imagination, faith, memory, etc. are all likely to be impacted by sense perception. IKS uses all of these ways of knowing by disciplining the senses within righteous conduct first. Will IKS give evidence of such application of its ways of knowing? We will see this later. What are the similarities and differences of IKS and CKS? Both have 6 philosophies. The difference is in the evidence and ways of knowing. IKS and CKS differ in all the 3 ways: how they investigate the truth, how they comprehend it, and how they apply it. CKS uses sense perception to investigate the truth. Its inference and comparison too is guided by sense perception to infer a myopic view and not the larger subtle truths. Sense perception, according to IKS, will lead to a comprehension of truth from a gross point of view that has limited validity only for meeting the lower order needs of Maslow's need hierarchy. To rise in the hierarchy, its 6 philosophies comprehend these subtle truths to fulfill subtle needs of humans like well-being and actualizing their potential. The evidence of application of knowledge by CKS proves IKS hypothesis. We will see evidence of application of IKS later. In our first session, we pointed out that CKS sees multiplicity in nature. It investigates all phenomena and matter separately. This leads to expanding and sometimes contrary conclusions. IKS does not discount them. Instead, IKS also investigates that unity and energy which activates all these phenomena and matter. As this energy is subtle and not visible to the eyes, it needs a different state of mind. It is above using sense perception only. It is the same energy that develops character, transforms values, that the OECD learning compass seeks for transformative competencies. This state of mind needs to be created by practices, just like Abraham Lincoln used them to see the truth beyond sense perception, beyond the idea of sense perception viewing praise and blame as different things and not taking a middle path between them. This course lays a deep emphasis on practice. Every attempt is made to make all the lectures very short. A 5-minute slot at the end of this lecture is being given for silent sitting. This is to enable the participant to mull over what is said. Whatever has been heard should be repeated in the mind so that it gets absorbed. Just as sugar is stirred in a cup of tea or coffee with a spoon, use the spoon of silence to stir the sugar of Indian knowledge systems in your mind. It takes some time for the tea or coffee to become sweet. patience is very important. The perspectives shared in the course will seem meaningful only if such silent sitting is done to mull over what has been said. Else, the half an hour spent in delivering the lectures will be a waste of time. We welcome you to undertake an inner journey during these 5 minutes. Only then will knowledge that is outside you will become wisdom inside you. The time allocated for this is actually 20 minutes, not 5 minutes. The time should be increased gradually. This is also a time for the mind to take rest. In case it cannot do that, mull over whether the voice of the conscience has guided you at any time in life till now. We accept challenges for the physical body in games. In a gym, we can have a 20 minutes plank challenge. We may exchange challenges on the quantity of food we can eat. Can we go beyond such challenges to the second step of the Indian knowledge systems? Can we see if the mind itself can take rest and maybe stop working? Can we explore what will happen if it becomes zero? Remember, it is not good to challenge the mind. It rebels and makes you do the opposite of what you want it to do. It is far simpler to observe the mind. For doing this, first the physical body should move as little as possible. Observe the mind as it tells the body to move. You are not telling the body to move, the mind is telling the body to move. Observe the mind. Move away from the mind and see what it is forcing the body to do. Watch the mind as if you are sitting on a fan at a distance. When you are at home, Shavasana in yoga is a good posture for this practice. Try to first silence the body, then the mind. For those who have mastered this, they can try the next method. When you think of nothing, can you experience love without giving it a shape of a thing like your favorite food or a thing that you want to own or the physical form of a person? Can it just be love without an emotion to a person or a thing? Can it be love for the sake of love? How do you experience loving yourself? The purpose of this course is to help you discover yourself, that loving being beyond the body and the mind.